Hey everyone, and welcome to the Consumer Book Podcast,
I'm April.
the place where we geek out over all things books. I'm Jacob.
So excited to have you here.
It's our launch, our very first episode of the Consumer Book Podcast.
It is.
And just so you know, Consumer Book Publishing, they're the ones who make this whole thing possible.
Yes. The parent company.
Yeah, our parent company. So we're going to be diving into all sorts of books here.
We are. I'm excited.
Bestsellers, classics, you name it.
Mysteries, thrillers,
Fantasy epics, memoirs.
the literary fiction,
Romance.
sci-fi.
We're going to cover it all, and we really want to hear from you guys, too.
Absolutely.
This is about having a conversation about books.
Yes. What are you reading? What should we be reading?
What books have changed your life?
We want to know.
We're going to be talking about the books that stay with us long after we finish reading them.
Right, the ones that make you think differently.
The ones that make you see the world in a whole new way.
Exactly.
And we'll also be talking about the authors behind these books.
Yes.
How do they do it? How do they create these incredible stories? We might even give you a sneak peek behind the curtain of the publishing world.
Ooh, yes. Since you know, Consumer Book Publishing does help authors with publishing, promotion, reviews, all that good stuff.
So if you're interested in that kind of thing,
Definitely check them out.
yeah, check out the episode description for more info on Consumer Book Publishing. And this week we're exploring books that aren't just journeys through pages, but journeys deep within ourselves. We've got a trio of tales lined up for you, each one promising to reveal something new about ourselves and the world around us.
It's fascinating how books can do that, isn't it? Offer a mirror to our own experiences, even when the setting is wildly different from our own lives.
Absolutely. And there's perhaps no better example of that than our first book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I mean, we're talking over 80 million copies sold, translated into 80 languages. This book is practically a global phenomenon.
It really is. And it's one of those books that seems to find its way into your hands at exactly the right moment in your life, you know?
Right. Like, just knows when you need a little push to follow your dreams. But instead of being preachy, it tells this beautiful, almost allegorical story about Santiago, an Andalusian shepherd boy who dreams of something more than his everyday life.
And that's what gets so many readers, I think. It's not just about a literal treasure hunt, though that's certainly exciting. It's about Santiago discovering his personal legend, that unique purpose we each have in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, let's unpack this personal legend idea a bit. What does Coelho mean by that, and how does it play out in the story?
Well, Coelho uses this term to describe the reason we're all here, the unique path each of us is meant to follow. For Santiago, it's about listening to his intuition, the omens he encounters, and the whispers of his own heart that lead him toward his true calling. It's about recognizing the opportunities presented even when they come disguised as setbacks or detours.
It's interesting you say that because there's this recurring theme in the book of the soul of the world, this universal force that guides us if we just learn to listen. It's like Coelho saying that our dreams aren't just frivolous desires, but rather they're connected to something much larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And the book doesn't shy away from the challenges of following your personal legend. Santiago faces fear, doubt, and setbacks. But it's through those challenges that he grows, learns to trust his intuition, and ultimately takes ownership of his journey. And speaking of journeys,
Oh, yeah.
our next book takes us into a world where self-discovery is very deeply intertwined with facing some pretty intense trauma.
Yeah. A Court of Silver Flames definitely doesn't shy away from the darker side of things.
No, it does not.
For those just joining us, this is part of Sarah J. Maas's wildly popular A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and it focuses on Nesta Archeron.
Who, I might add, is a fantastic example of how Maas writes such compelling female characters. Nesta is strong, she's defiant, and she's deeply flawed. But beneath that tough exterior, she's carrying a lot of pain from her past.
Which is understandable, considering what she's been through in the previous books.
Right.
But instead of giving us a cookie-cutter heroine, Maas throws Nesta into the fire, so to speak, and forces her to confront her demons head-on.
Exactly. And a large part of that confrontation involves her relationship with Cassian, a warrior who has his own share of scars, both physical and emotional.
And let's be real, the chemistry between these two is off the charts. Maas definitely knows how to build tension and create these passionate, almost explosive dynamics between her characters.
It's one of the reasons her books are so popular. But it's more than just the romance. Maas creates this intricate world, Prithian, with its own complex politics, mythology, and magic system.
It's like she's taken classic fantasy elements and given them a fresh, modern twist. But going back to Nesta's journey, What I find really interesting is how her self-discovery is tied into this idea of finding strengths and vulnerability.
That's a great point. Nesta's used to being the strong one, pushing people away, keeping everyone at arm's length. But through her relationship with Cassian and through the challenges they face together, she begins to realize that true strength comes from allowing herself to be vulnerable, to ask for help, to let people in.
Which is something I think a lot of us can relate to, whether we're battling literal demons like Nesta or just facing the everyday struggles of being human.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of a well-crafted story. It allows us to see ourselves reflected in characters who, on the surface, might seem very different from us. But at their core, they're grappling with the same universal questions of identity, purpose, and belonging.
Speaking of relatable struggles, let's switch gears from a world of fey warriors and ancient magic to something a little closer to home, a seemingly normal family with secrets lurking just below the surface.
And a first line that will hook you from the very first word. Welcome to the family. Chills.
Every time. Okay, so our final book today is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, and it's a masterclass in building suspense.
Absolutely. McFadden has this way of lulling you into a false sense of security, making you think you're reading about a typical domestic drama.
Yeah.
And then, bam, she hits you with a twist you never saw coming.
Oh, absolutely. I remember I was reading The Housemaid like in bed one night,
Oh, yeah.
and I had to like put it down. I was like, this is too much. Like, I just need a minute.
To catch your breath.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then I had to pick it back up again.
Oh, of course. Of course.
But what makes The Housemaid so interesting, I think, is how it plays with our perceptions of what's real and what's imagined.
Right.
We have our protagonist who's starting this new job, trying to rebuild her life, and she's immediately drawn into the strange world of the Winchester family.
Yeah.
But as things start to unravel, you're left wondering, is she uncovering actual secrets, or is it all in her head?
Right. And McFadden drops these little clues.
Yes.
These unsettling details about each family member that make you question everyone's motives.
Oh, totally.
Is Nina, the seemingly perfect wife, as innocent as she appears? What's going on with Andrew, the quiet, brooding husband? And then there's the daughter. Let's just say she's got a few secrets of her own.
Yeah, she does. So we've got this undercurrent of suspense, this slow burn of something's not quite right here.
Right.
And it all builds to this absolutely mind-blowing climax.
Yeah.
McFadden does not hold back.
She does not.
No.
And that ending, I'm not going to spoil it for listeners.
Right.
But let's just say it's one of those that stays with you long after you finish the book. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about the characters and the relationships.
It really makes you think.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've journeyed from the sun-drenched landscapes of the alchemist to the mystical realm of Prithian, and finally to a seemingly ordinary house with extraordinary secrets. Three very different books.
Very different.
Totally different.
What's fascinating to me is how they all circle back to this idea of confronting uncomfortable truths. It's true. Whether it's Santiago realizing he must face his fears to fulfill his destiny, Nesta learning to embrace her vulnerability as a strength, or the protagonist of The Housemaid piecing together the unsettling truth about the Winchester family. These characters, and by extension, us, the readers, are all forced to confront aspects of ourselves and the world that we might rather avoid.
And that's the power of literature, isn't it?
It is.
It holds up a mirror, challenges our assumptions, and maybe even helps us navigate our own journeys of self-discovery, however messy or unpredictable they might be.
Totally agree. And on that note,
Yeah.
If you're ready to embark on a journey of your own through the pages of some truly captivating reads, we highly recommend checking out The Alchemist, A Court of Silver Flames, and The Housemaid. You can find a link to buy the books on Amazon in the description.
And don't forget to check out the Consumer Book merch, also linked in the description. We've got everything a bookworm needs to flaunt their love of a good read.
And as always, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of books, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Consumer Book Podcast for more insightful literary discussions. Until next time, happy reading.